The views and opinions of this program are those of the host, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading.
For over 95 years, we've set the bar. Power, we restored it. Protection, we reinvented it. Record yields, we redefined it. If there's one thing we know at FS, it's that just because something hasn't been done, doesn't mean it can't be done. We're never satisfied unless we take your farming operation to the next level. Run your equipment at peak efficiency and bust the bins this season. Visit fssystem.com.
Well, after a largely risk-off day on Thursday with a bearish WASDE report across the board, Friday's trade, I'm going to call it largely a consolidation day. It was pretty quiet, not a whole lot happening, but we still have plenty to talk about and think about here in this market. Joining us as we wrapped up the week on Friday for market analysis, live from the tractor cab as he's still busy finishing up harvest in South Dakota. Dwayne Bussey with Bolt Marketing joining us here today. Dwayne, good to talk to you, buddy. And man, I know you guys got some snow up there, slowed you down a little bit. How much more harvest you got left to get wrapped up?
I'd say a good 10 days to 2 weeks maybe yet. Bounce around a little bit. We're drying every bushel down from about 21%. So that's taken us a little bit longer than anticipated. But one other thing that's also taken us longer, the reason why is we got some good bushels up here, which USDA kind of found yesterday a little bit, North Dakota, South Dakota. So yeah, that's a good problem to have. So no, I'm thrilled. And as you know, most of the time I'm sitting in the office. So every once in a while, spring and fall, they put me in some piece of equipment and I set up my computers and my iPad and I get to drive back and forth. So it's good therapy for me. So we'll see if we can do this on the run today.
Well, so far, so good. Yeah, well, so far, so good. Well, let's talk about things here a little bit. You mentioned yields in the Dakotas were better. I think you mentioned to me before we went on the air, Illinois yields were good on that WASDE report, went up a bit. Yeah. We got a lot of corn, and the WASDE reflected that. A lot of producers, to your point, have been saying they've had better than expected yields. December corn set a new low for the move on Friday, but largely kind of held after it set that low around the 461 mark. So, I mean, what's your take of this corn market here, Dwayne? Are we at fair value, do you think, at this point for corn?
That's a really good way to look at it, Jesse, is fair value. Not surprised going into that report. We were right near the harvest lows, which I thought were the harvest lows. I don't know if you can call today now the harvest lows, or maybe this is post-harvest lows for most people, I know. But I'm pretty happy with it. Well, happy is kind of an odd term when you make new lows today, but it's all right. We didn't crash today. We held the lows after busting down early this morning. A lot of times when you make new lows like this, Jesse, you'll run stops and you'll go quite a bit lower, but we didn't really do that today. I don't think the market wanted to sell off too hard. We've had huge volume this week in the corn market. That kind of tells me we might be having an exchange of ownership just a little bit. Funds sold the market really hard last week. I don't know if they're selling really hard here anymore or not, or maybe they're buying it back, or maybe the funds are selling, commercials are buying. We're going to find out Monday afternoon in the commitment to traders report. That is delayed till next week with the holiday tomorrow. A lot of the government offices were off today. So I'm rambling, but I kind of like the way the corn market performed today. I think and hope we made a big time low.
Well, you made a good point there with the volume in the corn market. Maybe some of that change of ownership, maybe some farmers who are wrapping up harvests or have wrapped it up have decided, you know what, hey, I'm woefully undersold. I had some extra bushels, so maybe we saw a few more sales on the books there, but it's kind of a double-edged sword because I've even heard, some places this isn't, not untypical for this time of year, but some places, especially Eastern Corn Belt, not accepting corn right now. I mean, it's too much. So you kind of got both sides of the coin there. I think you got some sales happening in some places that just have too much corn and won't take any more right now. But maybe the predominant feeling here is we're just seeing more corn sales here to wrap up the week, Dwayne.
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of farmers selling. And I didn't mention that in that exchange of ownership. I think there's been a lot of that up here in this area. it's not just me going, trust me, we're not that bad, but elevators have been shutting down at like 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock. They're full. And that's after, most farmers fill up their bins at home, then they're taking it to town. So yeah, it does show a bigger crop size. And, when elevators are doing that, of course, basis is probably going to continue to widen out a little bit. And it's not that everywhere. Of course, some places were short crop, but we have heard the last month and a half, that better than expected in a lot of places. And, I think that's showing here. But once we get through harvest completely done, which we're really close, that farmer selling will dry up, Jesse, especially at these lower prices. And once that farmer selling disappears, then I think the buyers might have control a little bit and be able to move this market back up.
Something to definitely keep in mind, and we'll have to see as we wrap up the final legs of harvest here. Dwayne, let's go over to the soybean market. Slightly surprising that the yield went up just a little bit, 49.9, and that WASDE report production going up as well. We got the big China sales, a lot of confirmations this past week, yet the soybean market took it on the chin somewhat Thursday, a little bit of a rally back on Friday, maybe just, again, some of the bulls trying their best to get back in this market with South American weather worries. I guess I'm rambling now. What's your take on this soybean market here, Dwayne, after all the action we saw this week?
Well, Jesse, you have to ramble because, once you turn the reins over to me, okay, there goes Dwayne again for another 5 minutes. So you got to get your questions in quickly before you let me go. I really like the soybean market, to be honest with you. I think, that report, yes, we found a little bit higher yield, right? Okay. It wasn't unbearable. They did not adjust demand one bit. And yeah, ending stocks are still below 250 million bushels. The market ran up earlier in the week on two things, a hot, dry forecast in northwestern Brazil, too wet in the south, and China started buying from us, didn't they? A little bit of panic going on there of like, well, if Brazil doesn't have the crop, we better get some purchases on the books. Huge export sales announcement Thursday morning, and the market didn't react because we had that USDA report coming right behind it, so no one wanted to buy. And then today, I just felt like if it wasn't going to be a weekend coming up here, I think we would have seen more buying. So I really like the soybean market. We were buying before. Luckily, we did be able to take some profits before the report. I don't like being in a lot of positions before the report. Little pullback now. If that forecast verifies Sunday night, hot and dry in northwest Brazil, I look for soybeans to lead the way next week and actually go to the upside.
Well, and great points you mentioned there. On the export sales front, I wonder too, even though we got those big sales to China, largely kind of getting us caught up to where we should be this time of year. So I wonder if that's another reason why there wasn't as much of an impact, that coupled with the WASDE report in terms of those export sales, Dwayne.
Now look who's being the bear, Jesse. Yeah, I know you're 100% right, though. We were behind the pace needed. So really those sales, all they did is get us caught up. So yeah, USDA did not have to increase export demand. And of course, they didn't have time to anyway. The data for this report was gathered probably a week ago. So you're right. We're just getting caught up to where we need to be. But what it also does show is that China's panicking just a little bit, and if that forecast continues, we'll go past last year's pace, and maybe we'll start exporting or be on pace to export more than last year, and we don't have the extra beans to do that. So I think if that forecast verifies, we're going to see a bullish market for soybeans next week again.
I'm not trying to be a bear. I guess I'm just trying to look at the glass half full and the glass half empty here, Dwayne. I gotta examine all angles. But overall, after the wild week we had, I think we could both agree it was a fairly decent, quiet end to the week in the corn and soybean markets.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It was a nice, quiet end of the week, which for some brokers that are trying to do multiple jobs at once, it was okay for me to see the market just kind of quiet, because after a USDA report, boy, I often like to let the things just digest a little bit, really dive into them a little bit more, and then move on. And yeah, it was a quiet day today. But oats up 20 cents. maybe oats knows. Maybe there's the harvest low in corn because oats is higher, which I don't know. There's a ton of sayings like that. So maybe I need to just shut up.
Well, hey, anyone working the oat market, it was a good day on Friday. That is a great point there, Dwayne. That is for sure. We are talking today with Dwayne Bussey from Bolt Marketing, joining us here on Market Talk. And Dwayne, wheat market notes too. Should ask you about that real quick. It felt like largely just a little bit of profit taking. I'd say that USDA report was neutral to bearish-ish on wheat. I mean, your thoughts? I didn't see anything that really stood out to me. We're just, again, not competitive on the world market. And then even you throw in a few Black Sea headlines earlier this week, but largely this wheat market just remains kind of unaffected.
Boy, you're right. It really boring trade there. And I mean, seasonally, that's the one that's supposed to make the harvest low first and rally. And I've been waiting for that forever. Been trying to buy some bushels back for hedgers every once in a while, thinking, well, it's fairly safe here, right? Well, it's never safe to trade wheat, period, on either side. But you're right. The report came out, didn't show us anything special. What the report reminded me is when I looked at global supplies, we're just not a big global player in the wheat trade anymore, which is kind of depressing, but it's the way it is. Now, we don't have huge supplies here domestically, and global supplies are fairly tight yet, too. The problem is, well, you mentioned we're not very competitive with a higher U.S. dollar and Russia trying to lowball everybody all the time. We're not seeing the export demand come in here. So without some new story, we're just not going to get this wheat market to really spike out of here. Like you said, we even had a commercial ship in the humanitarian area for that Ukraine where they were letting ships out, so not a warship at all, get hit with a missile. And I think one fatality, I think is what I had heard. And that didn't even make the market go higher. What I heard is it costs $20 a ton more now to ship things through there. I'm like, well, that's it. So yeah, we just can't move this darn wheat market for some reason.
No, and it doesn't help either that winter wheat planting is looking good. The crop conditions are looking good as well. I believe the last report was 50% good to excellent. So things moving along there. Wheat's just kind of interesting. We'll have to watch to see how things shake out here moving forward. Let's go over to livestock, cattle. Rough week in cattle. Friday, we tried to kind of cover some shorts, I think, and rally just a little bit. But I mean, down $5-7 in cattle on Thursday. Just an ugly day there in the cattle market. And then, just the week overall doesn't give me a very good feeling about this cattle market right now, Dwayne.
It doesn't me either, Jesse. And man, I don't even know where to start with that market. Obviously, yesterday when you got feeders down $8, that's borderline ridiculous is what it is. And let me go back to the news. People want to know, well, why is it down? And I wish I could give them a reason, like fundamentals, like, oh, the cash market crashed, which the live cattle cash market was down $4 or $5 this week. But honestly, Jesse, that was probably after the futures market crashed is when a lot of that happened. There was some panic selling there. What this crash is funds that have bought the cattle market. And go back and look at a weekly cattle chart and you'll see how far we've come from the COVID lows. And you understand there's been a lot of guys long from all the way back then. They're just getting out. They're taking their profit. They're taking their ball. They're going home. And the price doesn't matter. Supply and demand doesn't matter. They just want out. And that starts to snowball as they're massive sellers in a market that doesn't have a lot of volume. Remember, live cattle contracts are just a fraction of what like a corn month contract would be. So, and this is going to happen now that the funds are playing these cattle markets. So they want out. It's just snowballs. And then you got small traders like me think, well, this is overdone, but I'm afraid to buy it because it's down so hard. I don't want to get rolled over. And without anyone stepping in to buy it, it just rolls over even more and just keeps selling and selling. Yeah, we've seen the high in the cattle market for a while. Where we find support, I look back at some weekly charts, 166 in live cattle. And believe it or not, Jesse, that's still an upward trend. So I know we're at 174 right now. I know fundamentals say you can't go there. I kind of wonder if we don't have to go down there. So yeah, boy, now who's the bear today? So my bad. Drinks on me now all throughout the country. That was a bad one.
I was gonna say I flipped you around on that one. So I'll follow that up though here. Should we be looking at any hedges in this cattle market if we haven't been? I know a lot of guys and gals, they're gonna look at this and say and not be able to stomach it probably if they didn't put any hedges in place before this market fell apart. So now don't want to lose sight of risk management here. What should we be thinking about?
Yeah. Jesse, in a time like this where all of us, even the active traders, get afraid to trade a market because, hedging, you should just hedge and it's no big deal, right? But of course, everyone knows it takes a lot of cash to hedge. But you could sell with me Monday morning and then be on a $6 short covering rally, be paying some big margin calls. If we can't stomach the straight futures, we got to really look at these options. And I know we're going to say they're too expensive, but boy, an $8 move in cattle is pretty expensive too. So go out there, buy some feeder cattle options if you're a cow calf operator, $5, $6 per hundredweight, just buy it. And remember that if the market goes higher, you'll get the higher price then. Or look at the LRP insurance too, 13 weeks out, lock some of that in. We had not a lot, but a few guys lock in as far out as we could get next August for some calves that they're going to be selling then. Man, that LRP is going to look really good right now. So that's another way. You don't even have to pay that premium until it's due at the end. So there are ways we can protect this. Like I said, I'm going to lean towards the put options and the LRP insurance.
Hey, you know what? Hog market maybe found a little bit of that cattle money coming in there on Friday. Not a lot, but at least mostly green on the screen in the hogs. Any thoughts on that side of the trade here, Dwayne?
Yeah, I think that found a base, didn't it? It probably started back when news that we heard that ASF was starting to fire up again in China, which, you never want to hear of disasters like that. But of course, being producers and farmers, it's a supply and demand thing. If they have problems there with production, we will gain. And that seemed to put a bottom in our market, but the market had probably sold off too far anyway. Felt like $76 areas where cash should hold. And sure enough, this week, it looks like that's where it's starting to hold. So if 76 does hold, then DC, even after this rally at $72 is a little too low yet. So I think the hog market finds some support here, and maybe crude oil did today too, God forbid. That's up $1.80 as we speak right now. Chart looks finally a little bit better, but that's been a nightmare there too.
I was going to say that crude market has been falling apart, and so that's another factor in this overall trade. And of course, watching the stocks and the dollar and gold down quite a bit on Friday last I looked as well. So there's plenty of outside factors and noise to throw in here. Let's bring it back home and wrap it up though for this week here, Dwayne. Just overall, I mean, what do you want folks to remember this time period right now in terms of their marketing risk management? I mean, what would you say or reiterate to folks here to wrap up today's show?
Well, risk management, I guess, what goes up must come down, but it's so easy to say, but when I'm thinking the feeder market, but man, $200 looked like a great place to sell not too long ago too. And look how high we went. So, when markets get violent like this, maybe a weekend is good. Step back, take a look at your spreadsheet, see if you're making money or not, and go to the option side if it's too volatile. And on the grain side, I think we're making some significant lows. I think we got a soybean rally that's coming, but if Brazil does eventually get some rains, which I think they will, let's quickly look at 2024 and start hedging that stuff too. Remember, it's just about making money. We don't have to make a ton of money every year, just some money every year. That's what the banker tells me anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what my banker tells me anyway for my business. So definitely great thoughts. Always appreciate the time. If folks want to reach out to you, if they have questions, they want to talk about their marketing plan, they could talk to you live in the tractor cab right now, I'm sure. How can they get a hold of you with questions?
See trucks flying by everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can call us here 605-448-2365. And yeah, I'll either answer that in the office or in the cab here. So yeah, I guess my trucks are here. So I'll get back to work and fill him up and keep hammering away.
Well, that sounds great. I know folks can find you online too, boltmarketingllc.com. Dwayne Bussey with Bolt Marketing. Thanks for taking the time to join us from the tractor cab. Happy harvest season. We'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jesse.
That's going to do it for Market Talk today. Find us at markettalkag.com. I'm Jesse Allen. Have a great afternoon.